Hello, Miss Henderson. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Excellent. I got some sleep last night, so that was a nice change from the week of conference fun we're having.
Yes.
And today we are gathered here on a Saturday, no less, to to discuss the Vibe conference that we just attended in South Padre Island, Texas, an area that I had never been to before. So that was actually pretty cool. What'd you think of the conference and the area?
I had not been to South Padre Island either, so I thought it was actually different than I thought it was going to be. It reminded me of kind of a Virginia Beach kind of vibe, except a little bit smaller. But I thought it was great. I actually loved where the conference was. The hotel was the Courtyard Marriott.
Yep.
I thought that was great. Right there on the beach. The beach was beautiful. I know. I finally got to go to the beach the last day. I think you did too.
Yep.
We were locked inside basically.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
the location itself was nice. The hotel was actually great, super convenient. You're not
mhm,
going a mile to each end of the conference area. It was great to just be in a small space, all the rooms together, no
mhm.
searching down dark hallways and escalators.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been
And they
there
had a
before.
great Bar Louie is actually a kind of a I don't know it from Florida. I actually lived above Bar Louie in, in West Palm Beach for many years. And so I thought that was great. It was easy to get to, they had good food, stayed out late, had music like all day long.
Yep. Yep.
So it was kind of nice.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dance music at 7 a.m. during breakfast was a nice touch, along with the
Yep.
LED illuminated dance floor. So that was pretty cool. So, what did you think of the Vibe conference? This was the first year. It's
Yes.
organized by PartnerIn, the new organization created by Liz and Molly and Liz,
Mhm.
who we love. And what did you think of this new concept of PartnerIn? Excuse me,
So
Vibe.
Vibe.
Yes.
It kind of reminded me of, some of the older, like almost like a tech airlift type thing where it was just partners, right? I love that because it doesn't feel like a lot of I mean, I don't feel like there's any competition. We're all sitting around, brainstorming,
Yep.
talking about, all the new AI stuff and, and the pilots, or, the co-pilots, the chat GPTs, all of that. So I loved the conference. I thought, and we all kind of made jokes, right, about the vibe. I thought it was actually beautifully done too. I
Yes.
mean, when you walked in, the just the way that the backdrop was done, the I guess the general session room, everything was just beautiful. Actually, I mean,
Yep. As always, they know how to put
mhm,
on a conference, right? So the
mhm,
signage, the color theme, the
amazing.
atmosphere, the swag, the bracelets, the stickers, right?
The
We had a lot of
earrings.
fun. Yes.
I forgot. I should have worn my earrings today.
I didn't partake of the earrings myself, but I hear they were a big hit. And no, it was a lot of fun. It was a great, bright, lively theme. And
Mhm.
like you mentioned, this had a very different feel, a very different
Yes.
atmosphere. It was, I guess, much more open and
Mhm.
safe. I'll say it turned out that way. I don't know if they intended it, but it was a
Yep.
place where we could just talk about stuff. And it was in a room with our peers, and we're sharing things that would never make it into a normal conference presentation, right? Like,
Right.
hey, here are the challenges we're having. Here's how we're trying to solve them. Here's this
Mhm.
difficulty, or here's this problem, and here's how we solved it. And let's talk about that. And one thing that was really interesting, which I'd never seen before, was we had the freedom, or apparently I learned this later on, where
Mhm.
the presenters came into a room and the conversation of the session kind of shifted. And so they stopped, they rearranged the tables to be a circle, and they had an impromptu round table where everyone was having a conversation. in the presentation room. It was wild. And so I don't know that I've ever seen that.
Right. Well, and then we walked into that room, I think, after, and then had to
Yes.
rearrange the room.
Had to, right, because we just wanted just a more conventional room
Yep.
and we needed more space. So yeah,
Yep.
we're rearranging tables and chairs in the presentation rooms, which was a
Right.
very different atmosphere.
Yeah, and you did, and it wasn't a lot of people, right? It's the first year for the conference, so
Correct.
we knew
Yeah,
going into it that there wasn't going to be, 1,000 people there. And I think even if there was 1,000 people there, it would be a much different conference, right? Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. And we've also participated in the Genesis, the 1.0 of Dynamics Con. And
right.
so same feel. It was a much more intimate, smaller room, a
Mhm.
lot more interaction and conversation. And I think that's what I like about the new conference launches. I'm happy to go to
Right.
those, even though there's only 100 people, because it changes the tone and people seem to be much more open to discussion and a back and forth during the session.
Yeah, right. And what it reminded me even more of, though, and because Dynamics, obviously with Dynamics Con, you had users that were there. And
Yes.
as you know, we always have to be careful, especially as MVPs, about what we say. At this conference, there was actually quite a few MVPs there. So it
Yep.
was kind of nice to be a little bit more free with that. Um, but it reminded me of the day that we did that, where we all sat down after the conference and it was
Yep.
just kind of an MVP thing. And, we had what, 10 of us in a room. And that's where the BC and ski kind of came from, right? And
Right.
so it reminded me a lot of that. So I really enjoyed that because you learned so much. And you're not like I said, you're not running around trying to go to 10 sessions.
Yes. I also actually enjoyed the smaller set of
Mhm.
content. What we had, like 6 or 7 rooms. There were,
Mhm.
4 sessions, 5 sessions a day, whatever that number was. We didn't have, sponsor sessions, at least this year. I'm sure they'll hope to have that at future
Right.
sessions, but it just produced a vibe that was very different, much more casual, much more open, much more trusting. And one of the sessions I attended was a partner where they were originally going to give more of a traditional talk, a presentation, talking to the room. They
Mhm.
saw how these sessions were going and they scrapped their entire presentation,
Yep.
recreated it, and they had a really open and honest conversation. They said, here are the things that have not been working for us, right? Here's where we have
Interesting.
failed. And it was not like nothing I'd ever experienced. So it was really great.
Right.
So what sessions did you attend, or what were your highlights? What did you like? What did you appreciate in terms of the content and sessions?
Well, I think my favorite session was the baby gator.
Ah, okay. Let's take a look at the baby gator. Let's see if my
Oh.
yeah, production studio, can you pull that up? Give me a minute here. Okay, so
Uh,
my production
you
team is pulling it up. Okay, there we
There
go.
you go. Yes. So they had a baby gator. And actually, this was an organization that is in South Texas, and they do rehabilitation. The woman was actually very informational. I don't know if you actually stopped to talk to her at the baby gator section, but she was saying, they take them to school, they take them to schools, they do lots of different programs. And so she was actually super nice.
Very
And then
cool.
you
I
got to hold
think
the
I
baby
was
gator.
either in a session or running around or doing something. I walked by when she was
Hmm.
introducing him, but I did not have a chance to hold him or, have a deep
Yeah.
conversation with him. And yeah,
Yeah, and you
looks
learned how to hold the baby gator because if you didn't hold him properly, also he would pee on you. And I
yes,
did learn
naturally.
I did learn something else. We said, "Well, what's the sex of the gator?" And she kind of flips him over and she's like, "Well, if you stick your finger right in here, you can figure it out." And I'm like, "I'm good,
No
thanks."
thanks. That's kind of intrusive.
Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah, no."
I will take her word for it that it's a boy, right?
Yeah, or whatever he is. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So the
Super
baby gator
cute.
was good. Yes.
Very cool.
So I attended Sean Dorad's session on AI. I think you were sitting right behind
Yes.
me. And
Yep.
actually, it was not an AI session, is what was interesting. And
Yes.
I think that was the name of it. It's not just another AI session. And the session was really more about, I felt like, just being responsible AI is what if you were to give a few words on it, that's what I would call it. As Steve was
Yes.
dying
And
there. Yeah.
yeah, he talked about how the challenges of introducing this thing called AI in your
Mhm.
organization, and whether you're a partner or even a customer, and or if you're a partner talking to your customer, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of
Mhm.
confusion. It's new. Either some people may not understand what it is, may be afraid it takes their job, may be confused as to how they use it. So he talked about a lot of the not soft points, but kind of ancillary concerns that
Mhm.
we as humans are going to be dealing with as this thing called AI comes about. And so I think it was a great topic. And one of the things we've discussed is that this conference was a partner only conference. And it
Mhm.
wasn't just BC partners, it was any Microsoft partner. So we had a wide mix of partners in attendance. So these types of general topics like how do you deal with this thing called AI within your organization or when talking to your customers?
Right. And one of the points that he brought up, which is really interesting, and I've actually had a couple other customers do this also, where he was saying they don't allow their employees to use AI. And I have actually seen that. So it's kind of interesting.
Yes, and I made the point that I've spoken with someone at an organization that mandates the use of AI
Mhm.
literally every single day. The employees are evaluated on the amount of AI they use in their day-to-day jobs. And that I'd say both of those are extreme ends of the spectrum, right? Don't use it
Right.
at all. You must use it, even if you don't know how. And so I don't know that either of those are great options. And so I think Sean talked about just a framework for how do you think about this? What concerns might you have? And how
Mhm.
might you start to discuss this as this organization altering technology starts to roll out, right?
Right. Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So so the session that I went to right after that was also an AI strategy session. And that was a panel that was done, and it was a little different. It was more that they were saying, what do you think about having an AI strategy, and what are you looking for, so that maybe when we're at Vibe next year or we're at other conferences, what are you wanting to see as an AI strategy? I took one thing away from that. I mean, there was a lot that happened, but the one thing that I took away from it on AI strategy, which you and I use it, right? Actually, I think everybody on our team
Yeah,
uses it.
absolutely.
And so, but one thing I didn't think about is, we show customers we demonstrate BC all the time, right? I probably
Yep.
have 2 to 3 a week, right? And I will show Copilot inside of BC. The one thing that I just realized from that session that I don't do, I use it in my own world, right? Is using Copilot in Teams, using Copilot in Excel, in Word, all of those things. I never thought of actually showing customers because they may not use it, right?
Right.
Across the platform. And that gives you a more, I think a leg up on the your competition, because I mean they have AI, but they don't have, you know, the Microsoft stack, right? That has Copilot
Yep.
in everything. And you were learning about, you said, oh, Copilot's in Power BI. I think we were studying in one of the last
Yeah.
sessions, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's in there. I use it internally, but using it for customers, as you learned, I told you kind of what doesn't really work is the licensing for that.
And I will have to admit, I had never used Copilot in Microsoft Office at all. I just thought of it
Hmm.
as this annoying button that suddenly showed up, and I'm like, get
Yep.
rid of it, turn off this garbage, right?
Right.
And until I saw a demo of its potential use in Excel and that it can like fill out
Yes.
missing it can validate addresses or, country
Right.
names or something like that. And there are limitations like the licensing. It can do
Yes.
some things without a license. I'm assuming there's a free version, but with a license, it can be interactive with your spreadsheet, for instance, and it can actually
Right.
update data and perform actions within the spreadsheet. So I am one of those people who have never actually used it. And,
Yeah.
it's like we're using BC and some button or some menu option appears. We don't look at it, right? It's
Mhm.
like we've been in the purchase order screen 100 times and we
Mhm.
don't dig through the menus to see what's changed. And unless we catch it in a launch event video, we won't even know it's there half the time. So for me, it's like, okay, there's an annoying Copilot button that's appearing in Office.
Sparkles.
Yeah, the sparkles. And it's just like, I haven't bothered to learn it. And because I've been using, say, Excel or Word for so long, I just ignore these things. And to my detriment, right? There could be
Right.
some amazing functionality that
Yeah.
I would benefit from if I gave it a try, spent 30 minutes trying to figure out what it can do, how might I use it. I need some story about why I would use it. And I think
Right.
that's not natural for many people,
Mhm.
including myself. Like you really have to go out of your way.
And see, for me, like, and I'm in Excel all the time, right? I live in
Yep.
Excel, so does Alyssa. And so for us, trying to remember those formulas and trying to do VLOOKUPs
Ah,
and
okay. Got
trims
it.
and all of that, you're just like, oh gosh, how do I do that again?
Yep.
Ah, Copilot's right up there. Copilot, can you do a VLOOKUP to do blah, 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 right? My Copilot might come on because
Interesting.
I just turned on voice activation today, so I'm hoping she doesn't. Um,
And
but yeah, so yes, that's what
And
I use
I've
it for,
been popping out to, say, Perplexity to ask
Perplexity.
those questions. But
Right.
if Copilot is integrated into the Office suite, then
Yep.
maybe I should check it out. But it is what, a $30 per user subscription?
It is, yes. And
Yep.
we have it, obviously, because we use it for every meeting, right? Even
Yep.
if we don't go back and do something, we still have it on. We use it for summarizations on our Teams meetings. I
Yep.
I pretty much live in Copilot for looking through my emails now. Sometimes when I'm
Okay.
like, I cannot for the life of me, I know Steve sent me an email with
Yep.
X in it. And I will go in there, change it to work, right? And I'll say, search my work for this. And it'll come back and say, you mentioned this in a Word document. You mentioned this in an email. And here's all the things that you mentioned, access.
Okay.
And
Maybe
then
I need to get a
click on it
license and try it.
and it takes you right to the email. And you're just like, oh my gosh,
Okay.
that was so much easier, right?
If
As opposed
only
to
Outlook could have a
emails.
usable search feature. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, but
Okay.
the thing about Copilot is it can search all of your
Yes.
products. So, that makes a big difference.
Okay,
This
so
wasn't
back to the
supposed to be a
Vibe
Copilot
conference.
session.
Yes.
I know.
So, and that's how pretty much every session went, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
AI crept in
exactly.
everything. So, while you were in that second AI session, I
Yeah.
attended a fascinating session called From Ruins to Wonders: Rising from the Ashes of ERP Failure. And this is by Miroslav
Mhm.
Panevsky. And I was actually like reluctant to go. I was like, oh, well, this is like the only one that might appeal to me because it's like ERP failure. It's not it's not a positive topic, but
Mhm.
I'm so glad I went. I got to meet him. He's an awesome guy. He's quite a character, right? Larger
Yes.
than life. And he is more, I would say, of an enterprise PMI, PMP type ERP implementation manager. And he does all sorts of technology projects. But he talked about several cases where he had to go in to rescue failed implementations. These are multi-million dollar ERP implementations, and
Mhm.
how he used different superhero personas to describe certain approaches to trying to rescue different types of project failures. For instance, maybe it's a technology failure. Maybe it was a project team or consulting team failure. Maybe it was the client contributed to the failure. The example was three other partners have spent years trying to
Mhm.
work with this customer. All three have failed. You start to think it's not the consultants who have failed at this point. There's a
Right.
problem in the relationship that's going on there. So those different examples of how he dealt with that. It was a fantastic session. He's an awesome guy. So I've connected with him, and that's the type of thing with this conference that
Right.
was very different. Like, when would I ever connect with him and attend a session like that? And it wasn't about a product, right? It was about
Right.
a process, something that is universal to what we do. And that's what I really liked about these Vibe conference presentations.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I met so many people, right?
Yes, new people.
New people. Yeah. And it's so interesting that but you actually got to have one-on-one conversations with them because
Yeah.
everybody wasn't running around like crazy. And you're
Yes.
not dealing
And
with customers, right, at this point, right? So,
yeah, and that's the challenge that Molly and Liz are presumably going to have to work through.
mhm.
Conferences tend to need to scale in order to be
Yep.
more economical because it's very
Right.
expensive to host. And you need full rooms, you need a lot of attendees. And if the weather is bad and 20% of your attendees can't show up because of flight
Like happened.
cancellations throughout the United
Yeah.
States, not that we know anything about that, but
Right.
yeah, you take a really big economic hit. So you generally need those larger conferences just to cover the overhead. So
Right.
I'm hoping that the the feel of the conference
Mhm.
can be the culture, shall we say, can stay next year or at the
Yep.
Vibe 2.0. But
Right.
yeah, were there any other highlight sessions that you really liked?
So I want to add to that because you haven't been to Dynamic Minds yet, right, in
I have not.
Slovenia,
Yep.
and they have actually capped
Mm,
they've capped it. And so I
right.
think it's only about 1,200 people that they have. And as we've gone, I think this is our fourth year maybe of going. As we've gone every year, right? People, we tell people about it because it is very similar to Vibe, right?
Hmm.
You're again in that one building, you've got all your sessions and you got 11 floors in this building, and sessions are on 4 different floors and there's couches and things. So the Vibe conference very much I'm
Interesting.
because of the way the general session was done, I know they definitely kind of mimicked Minds for that a little bit.
Got it.
So it definitely is. I just like that better. I do more sessions at Dynamic Minds than anywhere else. Yeah.
Interesting. And one of the points that I believe Molly mentioned
Mhm.
is that
Mhm.
we were partners there, right?
Mhm.
There
Right.
weren't people sitting out in the hallway on their laptops or taking calls. Everyone was in a session, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And we were there to attend the sessions. Whereas in most conferences, we'll go and present in our 2 or 3 sessions, but then we're not really interested in the product content session or the end user session. Maybe at
Right.
directions we'll do that a little bit, but this was for us, by us, for us, and really, really powerful, valuable sessions. So,
Yes. And the general session they did at the end of the day. And Molly came up to me and she goes, "All right, you have to go." She said, "It's at the end of the day." And I said,
yep.
"Oh, I know." So they did a sip and settle cocktail. They did a little cocktail hour, which was,
Hmm.
it was like 30 minutes, I think, before the general session. General session and it wasn't very long, which makes it nice, right? At the end of the
Yes.
day. And then we all stayed in that general session room for
Yes.
probably another
Couple
2
hours.
hours? Yeah,
Yep.
just talking with each other, and then we all kind of migrated to the bar area, right, and continued to sit there and have conversations.
Yes. And it
So
wasn't these rigid military rows of chairs in a big conference room or,
right,
main ballroom. It was round tables and it was sofas and it was a more intimate atmosphere to encourage that interaction. It was great. We had a
right.
great time. And
Yes.
like, Kim and Rob were both there and I know them, but I've never really interacted with them a lot. And so at this
Right.
conference, we got the opportunity to hang out with Kim and Rob a
Mhm.
lot more than I ever have. And so
Yep.
like even people I kind of know, I got to
Yes.
spend time with them. So it was really, really a great job.
Yep,
So while
definitely.
we were there, we had a few presentations.
We did. We
Which
did
one,
our,
which one did you like?
oh, I was actually surprised. Both of our sessions were actually pretty well attended.
Very well
I was
attended.
kind of surprised because they are different.
Yep.
This was the second time we had done the $1 million lawsuit, right?
Yep.
Steve revamped all of the slides for both
Completely.
sessions, for that
Yep.
session. The second one we never presented on. But I think those sessions, definitely the $1 million lawsuit, we get so much interaction. And I think
Yep.
every time we've done that, we learn, right? Like we
Absolutely.
had someone in the room again who was like, I've been there, I've done this, I lived this. And you kind of, I think you take away from that session and it almost adds to your session every time you have a conversation with somebody.
Absolutely. And one of the comments that was
I
kind of
know what
funny
you're,
early in the session, someone says, whoa, whoa, whoa. I wasn't expecting to have to think about legal clauses in a contract and the
Mhm,
implications of tort law. So you're making me work pretty hard in this morning session. And
right.
it was like, he's like, whoa, wait a minute. This is a pretty significant discussion you're having right now. And I think it
Yep.
really got everyone's attention. They're like, wow. And
Yep.
it was unexpected. It's not a conventional topic. It has nothing to do with Business Central or
Product.
any specific product. It's about running your practice. And
Yep.
it was about 8 things where if you neglect one of those things, you could get yourself in serious trouble. And for I don't think we had anyone in the room that was skeptical, but to just reinforce it, we did have an attendee who said, I have been there. This is
Yep.
spot on. This is exactly what happens when you are sued by a customer, and it will be brutal, and
Right.
you will be eviscerated in the lawsuit.
Right. And I think it really makes people think, right? It makes me
Yes.
think every time I list, go through it and read it again, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? Right?
Yep.
What do I need to make sure I do better? And I loved it because I think multiple people were like, thanks, Steve. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight now. Right. And that was one of
Yes.
the comments that was made.
Yep.
But it's true. We
It
all
is.
make those
I
mistakes.
did not
Everybody
sleep
does.
well for 2 nights after reading the full lawsuit document,
Right.
because if you've been around long enough and you are honest with yourself, you know
Mhm.
you or your team or your organization have done some of these things. Not
Right.
maliciously,
Right.
like
No.
unintentionally, inadvertently, accidentally, just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to put this description in my timesheet, and you don't think much of it. Under the scrutiny of an expert witness in the context of a lawsuit, it looks really bad. And
Right.
you would never realize the implications of one sentence on one time entry on one timesheet, or
Yes.
one mistake. You put the wrong date, it will be misconstrued and manipulated to make you look like you were intentionally did something. So
Yep.
great feedback during that session.
Yep. I love that session. I want to continue to do that session because I think it's such an easy session to do, right? And it's just thought provoking, 100%.
Yes. Yes. And now that we've met yet another partner
Mhm.
who has gone through this process, I'll have conversations with that person to see if we can get in touch with that organization, and who we have the potential opportunity to kind
Right.
of hear both sides. Whereas
Right.
in my presentation, we're only seeing one side, and that's the accusations against the partner. And so to be able to see how a partner can defend themselves against those accusations, I think will be very insightful.
Yep.
And we also learned that these types of lawsuits are actually apparently quite common in the MSP space. And so I've been
Right.
asked to potentially include that topic in the presentation. So, yes,
Yeah.
fantastic. Our second presentation was on our crazy journey in El Salvador, and
Yes.
that was building a nearshore consulting practice from scratch, which, if anyone has listened to me for more than 30 seconds, they'll have heard the words El Salvador come out of my mouth. And I
Yes.
joke that I can't shut up about it, or you can't shut me up about it, I shall say. So This session on nearshore consulting practices was about our journey, our wild
Mhm.
journey, where we unintentionally kind of fell into building a nearshore consulting practice in El Salvador, and how that came about, the story behind it, and how just kind of unintentional little choices along the way came together to build an entire organization there with the community, and having a building a talent pool in order to have future candidates for what we're doing for other consulting opportunities in El Salvador. And
Yep.
I got some great positive feedback from that.
Yes. And speaking of that talent, which I think, you know, and I do this, right? And I know you do as well. Obviously, it's Saturday and we're doing a video. But quite funny, I woke up to this morning of one of our team members on Teams. And if I see a Teams notification pop up on my phone, I immediately look at it because it's either going to be Steve, Alyssa, or somebody down there 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And so this morning, one of them was like, "Hey, you asked me to do this yesterday afternoon. It's already done." That was Friday night, right? "It's already done. Can you test it?" And I'm like, "Don't even, yep, already tested it this morning, already put it in live and asked them to do documentation." Right. And that is just amazing. So,
And why is it amazing for you, Tanya?
because then I'm not the one having to learn all of these products. And
And
and he loves it. He was when I
yes,
gave him this project, right? I was, he's just like, "Oh gosh, I have to do another form." And I'm like, "No." It was actually a simple object designer, right?
yep,
Eric's product. And I said, "Hey, this is what I need." And we went through everything, and he did it. And he's excited to do it. He's excited to learn. And he'll reach out to Eric or you and say, "Hey, just reach out to Eric. He'll help you." And he did in this situation. And he feels, in my opinion, it's like a sense of accomplishment. It's a huge sense of accomplishment for them.
and I think it's more than a sense of accomplishment. I think it is an
Is
accomplishment, because
Yes.
I'm guessing at this point, David is highly skilled at Simple Object Designer,
Yes.
and he knows that product far better than I do, for sure,
Yep.
right? And he has figured out things and how to use it, and you've worked with him to do some fairly advanced implementation with
Yes.
Simple Object Designer.
Yep.
This customer's requirements are, I wouldn't say they're like complex, but you are pushing the limit and using
Yes.
nearly every feature of Simple Object Designer. You actually have
Yes,
hit
we
the
are.
limits of Simple Object Designer.
Yes. Yeah. And Eric's like, "Well, I goes, I've had somebody write a almost like a $30,000 implementation, right, with Simple Object Designer." And so, like somebody asked him, "Hey, if you do a PTE on it, that was what it was going to cost just to do the PTE."
Right. Yep.
You Simple Object Designer. So we do use it, obviously. Um, there's things that we do run into, but for this customer, everything they had was fairly simple. It was fields on
Yep.
forms and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yep.
So love
Add
that.
two or three fields here, have it transfer from the sales order, the invoice, things like that. And
Right.
no, it was a great project, and that's a perfect example of how David in Berlin, El Salvador,
Hmm.
zero ERP experience, zero
Yep.
accounting, zero what we might call business process consulting. He picked up Business Central. He understands it now. He understands Simple Object Designer, and he's putting
Hmm.
custom fields on business documents that flow throughout the system and also show
Yes.
up on printed reports, right?
Yes.
Like some fairly advanced stuff that, like, I don't work with Simple Object Designer, but I don't, I'm pretty sure I couldn't figure out half of it. Like, I'd have to go through the same learning process he went through.
Right.
I have no magical knowledge, but now that he's done that, he's a whiz kid with Simple Object Designer.
He loves it. Yes.
Yep.
So Steve,
Yes.
what was your favorite session? Or what was the session that you're never going to
Oh
let me
my
live down?
gosh. That's funny. I'm glad you asked, Tanya. Well, for
Ah.
our listeners, there was
Mhm.
a story where a customer freaked out because
Mm.
they thought their Power BI financial reports had changed. And they thought these reports had mysteriously broken and they were off by millions of dollars or whatever. It's like, why are all my financials wrong? What did you do to our reports? What did you change? Like, that's the natural implication, right?
Right.
Last week, the reports were fine. This week, the reports are all over the place. Like, what are these numbers? They make no sense. What did you break in the report?
Right.
And so, like, it's a
Gotcha.
fire drill. Tanya, what changed on this report? And Tanya says, Dave, what changed on this report? And Dave's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't touched this report in months. And so it
Or
was a fire
years.
drill. Yeah, it was a fire drill to figure out
Mhm.
what is going on, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
because the customer suggests that the report's been changed, that's kind of the first thing you check. Like, okay, what
Yep.
changed? How do we figure out if anything changed? And that introduced this entire can of worms of like, okay, we don't have a formal change control process around Power BI financials. And if you know me, coming from the coding world, coming from source code control, Git, DevOps, releases, pipelines, we're very strict with that on the code side. I
Yes.
said that is not acceptable. We have to find a solution. And the natural response within the Power BI world, and it's not just you, it's like there is
Right.
no change management, there is no version management, there's no inherent source control of Power BI. So I attended a session. Let me just pull it up here. This must have been on, was it Wednesday? Must have been on
Thursday
Wednesday.
morning, I
Oh,
thought.
was it Thursday?
Friday.
There it is. Power BI and Git version control for PBI reports. I see this title and I say, Tanya, why are you in your room on a conference call with a customer when
Yeah.
you should be down here listening to this session? So
Yeah.
it was quite funny. The whole session, I was the most annoying person in that session
Yes,
because
it
I
was.
am live typing while the presenter is speaking. I'm taking photos and posting them to our Teams chat and just pinging away while you're on the call. I'm like, I don't care if you're on a call. This is, you have to see this. And
This
so
was to the
you,
developer and myself. So it wasn't
yes,
just me. And then the developers pinging in, and it's just
yes.
like, oh my gosh, you guys stop. So
And
just
so the
stop.
developer's like, no, that doesn't work with what we do with Power BI. And
Yeah. It's in
I'm like,
preview. And yeah.
and I say,
Yeah.
my developer says that's not going to work, whatever you're presenting. He says, hold your horses, buddy, right? He says, we're going to get to that. And by the time he showed how it could be used, I was like, aha. And so I'm texting this and just annoying. It was great fun. It's kind of an
He,
inside joke that we have.
he had a
So
good time annoying the crap out of us on
yeah,
that.
so
Yes.
I did annoy you, and I am so proud, and I will never let either of you live it down that I, who know nothing about Power BI, I now know
Yes.
PBIX, PBIP,
Or,
PBIB, PB. Well, no, there's an
yeah.
interim, PBIB or P, and then there's
Uh-huh.
PBIR, which is the final boss, the current final evolution of the PBI, Power BI file format that has text within it. And what
Yes.
is the magic of that? That allows it to be checked into Git because it's text. You can do full diff on the internals of that PBIR report. And you don't have to be an expert on what that metadata is, but you can at least see what changed.
Right.
And he provided the great example of through Git source control on these Power BI reports, these PBIR files, they found a critical permission, an incorrect, critical incorrect permission setting on one of the Power BI reports that would have allowed users to see each other's data when it should have been
Mm.
segmented and isolated. And this would have been a very significant security issue for their
Interesting.
highly sensitive customer. So that was their example. And we now have our own example that now that if we get all our reports migrated to PBIR, get them into source control, fully versioned with commit messages, full diffs, full blame, and you'll learn about all of this stuff, right?
Mhm.
We will have no question. It's like, no, we have our full source code repository here. We did not change it. So that at least immediately takes care of that as a possible cause. And then you can go look to the real source of the problem, which happened to be the customer hadn't closed the year end, right?
Right. Yeah, or they hadn't created the year. Yeah, so they
Ah, they
hadn't
hadn't
created
created the
the
new
year.
fiscal periods or something. Got it.
Yeah, because
Yep.
we go off of the accounting periods table. So basically their
Got
data
it.
wasn't showing up, and that's why. But
So
Steve has set me off on a tangent. And so I told him, thank you, Steve, for giving me
you're
my next
welcome.
topics to submit. Because I couldn't figure out. I was trying to submit for Asia and I'll submit for EMEA. And those are topics that are amazing. I mean, I've done Power
Yeah.
BI at EMEA a couple of times, and I think this would be a great workshop, right? To
Yes.
kind of walk through. And so that's what I'm going to create out of this. I already went out and YouTubed it yesterday. I sent it to Steve. I already started downloading it and listening to it. So I was like, okay, I got this.
You
Yeah.
are welcome.
Yes, thank you. I needed a new topic though, because sometimes
Perfect.
you get
And
a little bored on topics sometimes.
and that's just another example of the random topic that I decided to attend. I saw it and
Mhm.
I would never encounter this at any other
Right.
conference. Like
Yeah.
it would be in some other building at the 5,000 person conference. I
Right.
would never have any exposure to it. And this was kind of a product specific session, which is a
Yep.
little different, but it's one where it's like, oh, let me learn something new. And it was amazing, super valuable for us as partners to have this capability. So
And
with
I
that,
did go to a role level security one that
okay.
Leslie did also. That was a very good session. It was a workshop and there was only a couple of people in there. But her and David Lassiter did a Power BI too, like a tips one. And I said, just those little things, I will
Yeah.
still go to all those sessions because there's something that I will miss. And it was funny. I made David Lassiter. I was like, hold on, go back, show me that again. Um, just those types of things. You pick up one or two little things and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it could do that. So those little things.
Absolutely. And then one of the final meetings that we had was we knew we had spoken to a woman who was attending the conference and, you know, we had seen each other. We never
Right.
bothered to look at her name badge. And it
Right.
turns out that she's part of TechFluent, which we've worked with before to volunteer and
Right.
help interview the candidates as part of the TechFluent program. So we got to connect with her directly. It's just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. So that was another chance meeting that you're just not going to run into in a 2 or 3 or 5,000 person conference. It's just really hard to run into people. So I
Yeah.
really loved the cozy, more intimate atmosphere of this smaller conference. It was fantastic.
Yep. And then we had somebody that jumped in the car with us while I took everybody to the airport, who we
Yes.
had not met either. Right. So that was really a nice drive back to the airport.
And I had spoken to someone saying, hey, do you know anyone from RSM who works in Business Central? Because I'm
Mhm.
aware of RSM. I know some RSM folks on the GP side. I have not, well, I know Tanya, who's a AL developer with RSM,
Yes.
but I was looking for more of the consulting team. And it turns out that we bumped into, sorry, I'm trying to find
I
her
can't remember.
session.
She already
Yes,
connected with me on LinkedIn, but I can't remember her name.
Manjula Dupati from RSM, and I
Mhm.
attended her session on what she termed an AI center of excellence and how might a larger organization approach standardizing and rolling out and researching AI capabilities. And
Right.
so I got to meet her, got to attend her session. She's a phenomenal speaker. She says she's only spoken 2 other times. She's a phenomenal, very eloquent speaker who uses enterprise grade terminology that I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? So we said, hey, we're going to the airport. Do you want to ride with us? Turns out she was on the same flight as David Laster and I and Jason Gumpert. So all four of us were on the flight. And so it worked out well. We had an hour and a half in the car going to the airport, got to hang out with her and meet her. So, it was a really, really fantastic conference for meeting people.
Definitely agree with that.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Molly and Liz for forming the Vibe Tribe. It has been dubbed the Vibe Tribe. So we are part of the 1.0 Vibe Tribe, or Vibe Tribe 1.0. So
Yep.
we had a great time. If you're a Microsoft partner, I highly recommend attending. When is it? September is the
September,
tentative date, right?
right?
Third week of September?
Yes, the third week of September, that will be Vibe 2.0. They have a couple of locations that they're looking to have this conference. They're still finalizing that, but obviously they should have that pretty quickly. And those two are pretty organized, so
Yep.
um, they'll start
So
getting that together.
it'll be somewhere in the US,
Yes.
location TBD, but look for it late September, and hopefully you can attend. Well,
Yep.
thank you, Tanya. Appreciate it. Great to see you this
Thank.
week.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
thanks everyone for watching. Okay. Adios. Oh,
There's me again.
okay. Let me mute us while we head out.